First, I just want to thank Startup Media for this event. I've been to quite a number of events like this, and it's good to see, innovators from different parts of the financial sector, or just, business in general coming together and sharing insights into how, to start up businesses and also share ideas on how to make them sustainable. So that's my outline. I'll just take you through, I think the terminology you already know about FinTech and FinTechs, because there's always a difference. The role of the department, the Payment System Management Act, which gives us the powers to do what we do, the regulations that relates to licensing in the national payment system, and the licensing process. Right. I think this is quite straightforward what FinTech and FinTechs are. Sometimes people use it interchangeably. Of course, you have FinTech, which is financial technology, the service itself, which is delivered with the use of technology, and then you have FinTechs. These are the entities that deliver FinTech services. But then also you have traditional banks that also provide FinTech services. So just that distinction that I wanted to make. So you have FinTech services such as mobile banking, mobile payments, payment gateways, open banking, etc. And then you have FinTechs such as Venmo, PayPal, and domestically we have FinTechs like Day-to-Day, Buddy, DPO, etc. So just to provide that distinction. Right, so the role of the National Payment System Department. So we have two divisions. One is strictly for regulation, the other one is for running a payment system. But I'm going to focus on the one that deals with regulation. In there we have three units: the regulation and licensing unit, the policy research unit, and the oversight unit. And they all play a role in the licensing or the regulation of FinTechs once they are licensed. So the first unit deals with endorsements of service providers licensed by PEN, the licensing of payment instruments, payment system participants, and e-money issuers. It's also responsible for drafting regulations and interpreting them when they are challenged or when they are questioned. We also draft the legislation which are acts, and also drafts regulations such as determinations, and also support regional integration. Regional initiatives such as your TCIP, I'm sure some of you are aware of that, which is your cross-border remittances. It's also quite a very fast-moving space for FinTechs to delve into. And then you have the policy unit, which is responsible for policy formulation, such as position papers, doing policy research and advices on regulations and data analytics as well, and supporting financial stability and macroprudential oversight. The oversight unit, this is responsible for once an e-money issuer or a FinTech for that matter is licensed. This unit is then responsible for overseeing that entity. Right. In terms of our act, the purpose of the act is to basically oversee and manage the national payment system and everything in it. So we have various sections in there that empower us to license and oversee persons to participate in the national payment system. So you have persons that participate in clearing and settlement. That is, clearing is basically participating in non-clear, and settlement is basically participating in NES. Want to be system participants. Okay, I mentioned that. And then you have section 36A that empowers PEN service providers. Once they do that, they are sent to the Bank of Namibia for endorsement. So a service provider cannot operate without being, or that decision being endorsed by the Bank of Namibia. So we also, in a way, oversee them through there. And then we also license payment instruments, which are your cards, your e-money, any type of instrument that is linked, or any type of form of payment. So we are also responsible for licensing those. And then we also have a category called payment intermediation. So payment intermediation is basically just being a middleman between the payer and the payee. But in that process, you hold funds in your account, and then you facilitate the transaction between the payer and the payee. So those persons, such as non-post, that do not fit in any other categories, such as e-money issuers or service providers or system operators, rather, they fall into that category. So service providers that want to do payment intermediation are licensed by PEN, and then we license those that are not service providers but do payment intermediation. Right. So the regulations that we have PSD1, PSD3, and PSD6. Of course, all these derive their powers from our Act. So PSD1 is responsible for, or it sets out the registration and requirements for licensing cards, e-money, and those payment instruments that are linked to QR codes and USSD payments. But then, of course, there's that link between QR codes, USSD payments, and e-money. So we have a substantial regulation, which is the PSD3, and that sets out the requirements for banks and non-banks that want to issue e-money. And it also stipulates the conditions for using agents. So as you might have seen, some of the e-money issuers use agents across the country to provide e-money services. And it also specifies specific requirements, which are the characteristics of what e-money is, because there is that borderline definition between e-money and deposit. So whoever highlighted what banking business is, which is mostly made up of accepting deposit. But e-money, in as much as you are accepting money as well, you are simply exchanging that money for electronic money, and that does not constitute deposit taking, because e-money does not earn interest. So that is regulated or licensed under PSD3. The determination also contains some consumer protection principles, because, as I said, you are taking someone's money with the expectation that you're going to give them an electronic representation back for them to use anywhere else. So like your wallet, like what Nami is doing, and the like. So PSD6, this is also another determination that caters for the designation of non-bank financial institutions. So we have a clearinghouse and we have a settlement system. Currently, 95% or 90% of the participants in clearing and settlement are banks. But we have one non-bank participating in clearing, and then they are indirect in settlement. So that's just to say that non-banks or FinTechs are also welcome to participate in clearing and settlement, should they meet the requirements stipulated in PSD6. So that determination also highlights the application procedure and stipulates what you need to fulfill to participate in clearing, which is through non-clear, and also access to means for settlement. I don't know if when I say clearing, we understand what I mean, but it's basically just clearing or authorizing, or not authorizing, but clearing, like transactions between bank A and bank B, and bank B have to be sort of authorized, right? Because if you swipe your card at the POS device, if you swipe your FNB card at the POS device of one window, that transaction needs to be checked and verified by both institutions. So NAMClear has that role and responsibility to ensure that your money and that difference was settled in NES. So we had a non-bank before in NES, and we also have a non-bank currently that actually directly participating in this space. So it's possible. It's quite a useful way to clear non-bank transactions, and therefore a very good space for FinTechs to play. So we have different layers. We have the Act, we have determinations, but then we also have guidelines and step-by-step procedures to guide applicants on submitting applications to Bank of Namibia. So we have the guidelines for e-money issuers. I think the most important section is section 6 in the guidelines because it stipulates what you need to submit for an e-money license. It also stipulates the type of e-money services that are allowed in Namibia, the type of wallets that are allowed, and what needs to be in a contract. Because when you are in this business, you sign SLAs. So there are certain SLA requirements that should be met when you submit an application to Bank of Namibia to issue e-money. And of course, consumer protection principles are also contained in there. The payment intermediation service provider guidelines. So memory serves me right, I think in 2016, because our Act says payment intermediation will only be done by banks and AMPOs, so we applied for an exemption to allow service providers to provide payment intermediation services. We have a few payment intermediation service providers in Namibia. I'm sure you have of the likes like MobiPay, PayMate, so those are all lists. And then we also have a guide, a step-by-step guide for participating in clearing and settlement for banks and non-banks. And in there, you will see that you first get a provisional authorization, and then after 6 months of being assessed as method similar to what Excon does, you are then granted with a full authorization. Right. Then we have PEN. I'm just going to briefly touch on PEN, not in detail. So PEN is not a sister regulator, but they are sort of they are sister bank in overseeing the national payment system and also licensing service providers on our behalf. So the applications to be a service provider, to be a clearing house like NAMClear. Sorry, the examples I just turned around. So automatic clearing house is the likes of NAMClear, and then payment system operators are like Innovation. Sometimes I think if you go into some of the shops and you swipe your card, when you get your receipt, it has Innovation down there. So they are responsible for, so they are a gateway between that merchant and the commercial bank. And then you also have the automatic clearing house, NAMClear has spoken about that, and then you have a payment intelligence service providers. So these are the 3 types of service providers that are licensed by PEN. And all those companies that are listed there, most of them are FinTechs. It's always sometimes it's to identify FinTech because the type of services they provide, you are not even required to go to their premises. Big FinTechs like PayPal, none of us have ever been to a PayPal shop, but then you consume their services because they use technology and automate all this, the technology to provide you with the service at the comfort of your home or wherever you are. So that's the contact information of PEN. PEN gives quite a different number of service providers. I think they have over 20 service providers licensed. And you will not know about most of them because they are always at the back of the services that the financial services you consume. So they are quite important. So this is just a slide to, I'm not sure whether the slides are going to be shared with the audience, but if so, I've just put the links of the various instruments that I've spoken to about today. And I've also put the contact information for our department for further queries that you might have on application processes and any requirements that you think you do not meet. Of course, FinTechs, the FinTech framework and payments quite closely met. So whatever you do not meet in these requirements is the reason why we have the FinTech framework also in place. So if you are really interested in venturing into the FinTech payment space,